I just saw something this morning from Ford getting pissed off at their dealers for adding a $10,000 markup for the new Lightning truck. And I always thought that was a fundamental mistake of business. I've tried to buy two Fords before, a Ford Raptor and a Shelby. Both times, as I'm getting ready to go down to the dealer after already talking to them, they hit me with, there's a $25,000 markup. And then I hang up at that point, right? And I always thought that the dealers were screwing up Ford as a brand. It was ruining so many things about their own brand equity. And at a time when electric vehicles are super hot, it's ultra competitive, do you want your dealers scaring people away with a $10,000 markup?
No, definitely not.
Like, I got to pay $10,000 for the privilege of owning your Ford truck. No, screw off. I'm going to go to Tesla or Rivian or GM, or hell, you got to think here, Sony's going to make cars. Apple's probably going to get in the game at some point.
Mhm.
You can't let your dealers screw this up for you. And I thought that was kind of scary to let dealers have that much control over your own brand.
This is my ignorance here, but what are they marking up for?
So a lot of times, if I want a Raptor, because they don't make a lot of Raptors, because they're high demand and low supply, they'll mark them up $10,000 to $25,000 sometimes because they can. They do that with the Shelbys. I mean, other car manufacturers do that too, but the consumers don't like it. But I just think this is, Ford's a little late to the game. It's only late to the game because Tesla was early, right? But you're trying to compete in that market now, and you're realizing everyone's got electric vehicle coming out. You should be doing everything you can to try to get people into your brand of electric vehicles, not putting $10,000 barriers in them, because all of a sudden it's like, well, the Ford might have been a little bit cheaper, and now it's 10,000 more, and the Rivian's 15 more, so I'll just pay the extra 5 and get a Rivian, right? I just bad mistake. Especially when you see even Sony's getting into the goddamn game now.
Sony. It'll be like PlayStations and great audio.
Though, for Sony, I remember when they came out with like their MP3 player, and they had to have like their own proprietary everything, and it made it just a pain in the ass. They'll probably do something similar with their electric car, where they'll do something that just doesn't make it kind of, you can't charge it anywhere. You're going to have this special charger, and that's just something that Sony will do. Like, to stay tuned.
Yeah,
they'll do something like that. But it's it goes back to a conversation you and I did, Kane, about, my thought was, everyone thought that Tesla was going to take over the whole world. We're only going to drive Teslas one day. There's going to be no other electric vehicle manufacturers. What have you seen in the last 60 days?
Yeah, everybody's pushing into the market.
Everybody. I even got Dennis over here thinking about buying the electric Hummer.
Those are facts.
I mean, nice looking truck. Plug it in the garage. It's we don't drive as much anymore. We're not throwing like 30,000 miles a year in our cars. All this work from home stuff going on. Not a bad deal.
When do we see work from car?
I mean,
like a car, yeah.
You both know this. Like, most of the time I call you, I'm in the car.
Sure.
The car is my favorite office and dining room.
Dining room.
Yeah, it's I get eat my lunch in the car, playing music. It's my favorite dining room, but it's also my office. If I'm in the car for an hour, 2 hours, I'm making calls, getting my calls done. So I should be able to write that off as an office, right?
I think it's heavy enough.
It's crazy to me. I had a few years ago when I took that one class from HBR on operations, one of our projects had to do with like autonomous vehicles, and the whole pitch of it was using the car, of course, to be efficient and being able to read and do some work in there. And while your car is like taking you to your destination, and at some point you have to stop and think. It's like, well, why don't we just have public transit and do those type of things? Like, why do I need a separate car to do something that a train will allow me to do? And there was a push I felt like for so many years that the Metro Detroit area didn't want any public transit because of the automakers. But that's in a sense like kind of like overall where we're heading into is that the timing that we spend in the car, because a lot of us do commute 30 minutes to an hour to work every single day there and back, you get that 10 extra hours to do the things that you know you need two hands for, whether it's browsing a magazine or a book or your phone. um, but then it's like, well, if I had a train that did the same thing, I'd why keep the inventory of a car in my garage and I could just take public transit?
If you had like super high density residential that went to super high density commercial, that would make sense. Otherwise, you end up with something like Amtrak that ends up stopping every 15 minutes, and the car drive you could have done in 4 hours is like 9 hours on the train. So I could see where that wouldn't work. But while you and Kane would probably have your laptop open, or you'd be reading a book or doing something productive, I don't think most people do. I think most people, if they didn't have to drive, they would just be screwing on their phone, playing on social media and texting. It's that thing where we often spend money to save ourselves time, and then instead of using that time for productive stuff, we end up sitting on the couch and watching TV, for example. So, well, I think it's, that there's a whole bunch of that stuff that talks about once we have self-driving cars that we're going to be such more productive people. I think the same people who were productive are going to be productive, and the other 90% are going to be on Instagram and TikTok, entertaining themselves or watching TV. I can't believe that everyone's just going to say, hey, I'm going to go read ebooks or take this class or get caught up on my emails. Nice thought. I just don't know if a bulk of people are going to do that.
For Sony to come out and want to build a car, they're obviously trying to focus on the experience of being in a car. And now, the newer models have these like gigantic dashboards, and it's pretty much all screen and TV. And I gotta believe the mindset of having the audio behind them, the software behind them, the gaming behind them, trying to make that experience and turning it into like, you're on four wheels now, and you're going to be able to do those type of things in your vehicle without, having to drive home to like game or whatever the case may be. I feel like that might be a push there.
It's going to be a home theater on wheels. But you still can't get a good car stereo from an automotive manufacturer. It still pisses me off till this day. Even if you spend like the $3,000 or $4,000 for the upgraded stereo, they're still terrible. So maybe Sony's going to come in and just revamp that whole electronics experience. But I like driving. There's something about driving that's liberating. It's a sense of freedom, and I enjoy it. I don't care if I got this giant screen in my car. At times I find them annoying. I kind of want the window open. I want the music up, and I enjoy driving still. And I think we like having control over things. Why do we like remote control cars and remote control drones? And why do we like riding four-wheelers? We like having control of things. And cars were always that one thing that we had control of. We could, if I want this lane, I can go in this lane. I can go here, I can go there, I can stop here. And yes, you can do that with autonomous vehicles too, but it's just not the same. So I just wonder, like, in the future, it's two separate things. We got electric vehicles and then we got autonomous vehicles. But when we lose that sense of control, when we're just sitting in this Best Buy on wheels, essentially. Are we missing out on something? Is it going to be 2 more hours of screen time a day that we don't need?
There's a big group of drivers that I wish would miss out on driving, though.
Not
Definitely.
even anybody from Florida or Texas who comes to Michigan in the winter. And then they're like, "What's that?" And then we're like, "That's snow." And then they think their car is going to stop in time. But there's a handful of people. It's the people that also have their face buried in their phone. They're not helping the cause out there, so they need the autonomous cars.
I just think how challenging it is for a company like Sony to come out and say, okay, we're going to make an electric vehicle, and this is why we're going to have a great vehicle. Like, to me, I don't know how, I don't even know if I'm going to look into buying a Sony car because I don't see like why they'd be the safest. Like right now, there's no one behind it that's driving the marketing behind it. Like, for me to feel comfortable to get into a vehicle made by Sony, I'm like, it's going to take me a while to get there. Right now, everyone's mindset is like Tesla or one of the big three that's coming out with EV vehicles. But then you got Rivian, you got Lucid Motors, you got NIO, you got all these Canoe, all these manufacturers that have been doing it for many, many years. That have the backing of automakers, designing it, making it. Like, how does Sony get around making people feel comfortable buying their vehicle?
And I think it's different. Like, you're at a stage in life where you have lawn furniture. There's a whole other group of people out there that if they had $30 million to spend and they had to choose between an NFT and Mona Lisa, they would pick an NFT. I think it's two different mindsets right now. I think people might just jump on the fact that, hey, it's Sony, it's cool, it's technology. If you haven't noticed, we're not the most rational people anymore. If it's cool, and if that's where the vibe is going, then we just buy it. So, cars to me are more than powertrains, and I think that's where like BMW and Benz, like they have a certain design aesthetic, the way they do their interiors or exteriors. I don't like Teslas because I never liked the way they looked. It reminds me of anything in that movie WALL-E. They're not sexy cars to me, and that's one of the reasons why I just never got into them. It's not just it's electric cars. I don't think they look good, but BMW's already got their designs. They got that brand equity, their interiors. I like their interiors and Benz, and to just throw a powertrain into cars a little bit easier. Now for Sony, they don't have all that, but when you look at, you can go to anybody. Look, think about this. We do a bunch of work in the manufacturing executive search space. We know that companies don't build everything themselves. If you look at the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 suppliers, there's someone out there that already makes the brakes. There's someone out there that already makes the seats. There's someone that's already going to make the head unit for the electronics. There's someone that already makes the gauges. So for Sony to do this, it's like playing Mr. Potato Head with cars. And they can probably even buy part or most of the powertrain from somebody else. So they just got to design a car. But everything else can be bought, if that makes any sense. It's not like the old days where Ford manufactured most of their stuff, right? You can pretty much contract manufacture anything now. It might be a little bit easier to get into the electric car game than people think.
I can see a world where Sony, you just package it up with the PlayStation and you NFT access to every video game that the PlayStation has, and you get every 16, 17, 18-year-old who's in the market for their first car.
Done. Don't got to go to the gas station. Don't got to get smelly gas on me no more. Like, done. Like, Sony, you're going to crush this. That's, is Apple, has anyone checked in a while? Is Apple still talking about getting into the car game? I'm surprised they haven't.
I haven't checked, but last I heard is that they should be. They probably will, and their track record of bringing anything to market means that they're going to have a massive car company as soon as it comes out.
I mean, I think if Apple came out with a car, that's the one thing that could put Tesla to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, if it looks
mean-
anything like it, they take the entire market.
I mean, you think that?
I mean, right?
Go ahead.
Tesla's market cap is like just crushing everybody in terms of the EV. Like Apple's not even in the picture right now. I think it was like Tesla had like a 1 trillion market cap, and the next was Rivian at 100 billion.
which is wild. Apple's 3 trillion.
Apple's 3 trillion, yeah. I just think their built-in customer base it's a guillotine chop. If they came out with something that has that Apple design aesthetic that is very user-friendly, that is good to look at, then with the built-in customer base, link all the same thing they do. They get your phone, and then you're in iTunes, and then you're got the cloud, and then you got this, and then I got a watch, and now I got this Fitness Plus bullshit that I never use, and I'm still probably paying $15 a month for it, and I'm no fitter. But once they get you in that ecosystem, then it's like, well, I just jump in the car and everything syncs up, and I got all my content, I got all this stuff, and Apple's that one company that could really bring some heat to Tesla. Not that, I don't know if you saw, like, Porsche's got the electric car, Audi's got them coming out, Ford's bringing the trucks, GM's got the trucks,
Mercedes. I mean, everyone's.
I'm sorry if I'm looking at Porsche right now and some of their cars, and Ken, I know you're a Porsche fan.
Mhm.
Like, if you give me that next to anything Tesla's doing, and I just want the Porsche, give me similar numbers. It doesn't have to be as good as the Tesla S Plaid, or just give me close. Just design wise, it's not even a question. I want a Porsche. Teslas are Teslas, and if you're a fan of Teslas, then cool. I just don't like them. I think what Ford's doing is bring out a regular ass truck and put an electric powertrain in it. I think it's smart. The Cybertruck's cool. I think you're going to get people who are not even truck people who want to buy that, right? But for the people that use trucks for what trucks are used for every day, they're not really looking at the Cybertruck saying, I want that. So there's room. There's so much room here. And maybe that's why, Warren Buffett has always held a bunch of Apple. Are they going to keep innovating and get into these markets? And we're going to be looking at a $10 trillion market cap in 5 years.
Yeah. It was a silly stat, right? Like if you just isolate AirPods as a business unit, I think that's a Fortune 50 company. Like they've got a big customer base. I think they can sell them a few cars.
Imagine what they'll do for cars. And then I think Kane and you and I might have talked about it. I know I talked about it, but you can't buy exotic cars anywhere right now. Like Porsche's sold out. And I wouldn't even consider that an exotic, but Porsche's sold out, Lamborghini's sold out, McLaren. You can't. It's all gone. People are spending $200,000-$300,000 on cars, and they're not flinching. So if Apple came out with this, no car doesn't start. Screw this high volume, $40,000 car BS. If Apple just came out with, the equivalent of the 13. How much is the iPhone 13 Max Pro? Blah, like $1,500 or something. That might bring the equivalent of that out in a car where everything Apple sells is $100, $120, $150, $200,000. Apple sell that all day long. And I think there's so much money. I don't think people realize how much money there is out there right now. It's at a point where Rolex is sold out. Almost all exotic cars are sold out unless you want to buy a used one. Good luck getting on a waiting list 3 or 4 years to get a Porsche, like a GT3 or something. The money is there for people to go buy this stuff. So Apple comes in at a premium market, selling $150,000, $200,000. I think they sell them all day as a status symbol.
So what happens to Tesla? What do you envision in like the next 5 to 10 years? Because if all these companies chip away at their first mover advantage, is there anything else that is helping them?
I mean, Tesla has that same cult following that Apple does. I think it's at a smaller scale.
True.
I mean, I don't think, Elon's going to just go away. Maybe he steps down at some point and focuses on the other gazillion entities that he owns and is trying to kickstart. So, but I think Tesla's built enough of a following to not just disappear if someone like Apple comes in and decides to really compete with them. To me, if Apple did come out with a vehicle, I'd probably jump on that faster than I would a Tesla.
I don't think Tesla's going away. I just think if there's going to be someone that's going to jump to the head of the line in competition, it'd be Apple.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other startups, and I whatever, who knows? I could be wrong. I'm wrong often. I just thought it was a mistake thinking that. I remember a post on LinkedIn saying that all the North American OEMs would be out of business by 2020. Obviously, those people were wrong. Because we get so caught up in this technology BS that we don't realize what's going on in the real world. Did you think Ford and Chrysler and GM and BMW, Benz, Porsche, Volkswagen, Toyota, they're just going to disappear off the planet? They have so much IP when it comes to cars. It's, from windows to dashes to all this design, like suspension. They're not, all they have to do is throw a powertrain in the thing that they've already been doing for 100 years. And they were too busy selling millions of cars to worry about Tesla selling 100,000 a quarter. And now we're seeing everyone, they're like, okay, we were too busy selling millions of cars to worry about Tesla. And we'll get there. Well, what do we see now? They're getting there. And it's also a point where they're going to get the charging down, which they're doing. And at some point, once the range is fixed, like, Dennis, do you care if your car goes 400-mile range or 1,200-mile range?
I ain't driving anywhere beyond like 500 miles.
When's the last time you drove 400 miles nonstop?
I couldn't even tell you.
You don't. I got to stop at McDonald's. I need that fountain Coke, large fry. Like, you're going to stop. You can get some more, what can you get? 200 miles in 15 minutes off a supercharger. So once that advantage from Tesla is gone and everyone catches up, it's just kind of diminishing returns. You can give me a 10,000 mile range battery pack. I don't care. I can't drive that much in one damn day. I'm going to go home, plug it in at night, and it's going to be charged again in the morning. So that was an issue that is slowly getting chipped away at. So once you lose that, then it's, well, how fast can you go? Have you ever been in a car that does under 3 seconds, 0 to 60? Either one of you?
No.
Yeah, it's fast. So go sit in a car that goes less than, if you've ever been in a drag car or something, less than 2 seconds, 0 to 60. At some point, and that's where we're at with the S-Plaid right now. It's 1 Apple, 2 Apple. You're at 60. So now that's diminishing returns. So the performance is maxed out and the range is maxed out. Now what does Tesla bring to the table?
And in a way, these other automakers, like Tesla's done a lot of the proof of concept and a lot of figuring out what the market actually wants. So, they've saved a lot of money, these other automakers, in terms of trying to figure out the market.
And the charging, at some point, there'll be some common technology. Maybe Tesla will be the Sony of the car industry, where they have their own proprietary stuff.
Right.
And then the big three gets together, and then with Toyota and Volkswagen, everyone else, and says, okay, here's our common charge. We're going to do these stations everywhere, because as a collective, they can just stomp on Tesla. And now all of a sudden, there's 25,000 of these stations, and there's only X amount of Tesla. It's like, there's games to be played here that haven't been played yet.
I always think about, for the car collectors, down the road, everything starts transitioning into electric vehicles. I'm sure laws will change and not being able to drive gas guzzlers around is going to be coming in who knows how many years down the road. But what's going to happen to all those car collectors that want to go for a ride someday, and you're driving down the street and the kid's like, what is that noise coming down the street?
Hopefully
And
that's
some like 1960, hot rod.
hopefully it's my V12 Ferrari.
Yeah.
Hey, that's one of those things that's I still like mechanical things. I like mechanical watches. I like the sounds of big V8s, V10s. Go listen to the Lexus LFA V10 and tell me you don't like that, or a Lamborghini or Ferrari V12. And if you don't like the sound of that, then we're just not going to get along. And it's just those things that there's people that appreciate those mechanical things and there's people that don't. I don't like ebooks. If you two do, no offense. I just hate them. Give me a regular book in my hands. I want to read that. And at some point, I think that technology doesn't always make everything better. It can be cooler. But again, if you ever sat inside of a V12 Ferrari, I don't care how fast the Tesla goes. I'm going to enjoy the Ferrari more.
I had purchased last summer one of those electric lawnmowers. Those, what are they, Egos or EGO? And I've had my Troy built lawnmower for maybe 12 years now. Still works fine, but I wanted to get an upgraded lawnmower. I had it for a day, and not even a day. I used it a couple lines back and forth, and I'm like, is this thing cutting? Is this thing, what is going on here? I returned it right away. I couldn't handle it because it was just no noise, no nothing. And it felt like I was just walking nothing. Like I didn't get that feeling of like being outside and cutting my grass like I do with my Troy builds. So it went back to the store.
They just don't build them like you anymore.
Yeah.
Are you talking about my weight or?
I mean, that could mean many things. So, I don't know. Kane's probably the most likely here to get an electric car first, I think.
Oh, hands down.
The Sony one? For sure.
I don't know. I still like that vintage Porsche for you.
Yeah. Me too.
Hey man, Powerball 300 million. Go get it.
Yeah, that's true.
Is the Powerball ever not 300 million anymore? Like every time I
point.
drive somewhere, I'm like, wow, it's 500 million. Wow, it's already 300. Like what? When's the lowest anymore? I just feel like it's always that high.
I thought it starts off at 300 million. So.
Yeah. Inflation.
Hey man, 300 million is the new 100 million.
Yeah, I gotta go get some tickets then.
Anyways, that's all I got for this one.
Sounds good.
Yeah.